Hello and welcome to another episode of Development Issues on Ominira TV. I am MunachiEgbulonu. In recent times, the call for self-determination in Nigeria has recorded an increment with the likes of Sunday Adeyemo, popularly known as Sunday Igboho, and Nnamdi Kanu leading this group in the fore. Now the question is, what are the rights to self-determination, and what is the federal government's position on this? This is going to form the basis of our discussion on this episode of Development Issues on Ominira TV. Today I have with me Mr. Olumiji Martins, a legal practitioner at Alpha Maverick Legal Practice, and we will be discussing this together. Welcome to Ominira TV.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Okay, so getting right at it, what does the law say, the Nigerian law, what does it say about self-determination?
Okay, well, when we look at it in an all-encompassing manner, the matter of self-determination is alien to our constitution. Alien in the sense that there is no provision in the 1999 Constitution as amended that stipulates that in any part of the country, or any of the part of the federation unit, can live at its own will. Of course, there is a special clause in the constitution that says that under no circumstances will any of the federating unit or state call for secession, that is self-determination. So simplicity and going straight forward, there is no clause in the constitution that supports self-determination or secessionist movement.
Oh, okay. So we've seen cases of people who are calling for self-determination in Nigeria, talking about Chief Sunday Igboho of the Yoruba Nation and Nnamdi Kanu of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. And we've seen the federal government now refer to these people as terrorists. In the Nigerian law, in the Nigerian constitution, when does someone become a terrorist? Are there like rules or guidelines or principles that would make someone tag someone a terrorist?
Well, you see, first of all, I want to state that there's a clause, there's an initiative, or there's a principle in government that is called statecraft. Now, when we look at what is called statecraft is just like a process, or it's just like is the wherewithal, or is the machinery, or is the ideology put in by government to make sure that the government is functioning and the government and the state is running. And in doing that, in employing the principle of statecraft, a lot of things are always brought to fore. Now, vis-a-vis the question you just asked about whether anybody who seeks for self-determination is a terrorist, of course, I laid the proper foundation by saying that in the 1989 Constitution of Nigeria as amended, it is exclusively discouraging secessionist movement. And now, when we now say that somebody is calling for secession or somebody is calling for self-determination, of course, we know that it is already in antagonism with the provision of the 1999 Constitution. That is, that call, as far as the Constitution is concerned, that call is illegal. It is unconstitutional on that aspect. However, when you look at the Terrorism Act is actually what stipulates, the conditions, the terms, and the elements or essentials of who a terrorist is or what terrorism is. Now, don't forget I mentioned the issue of statecraft. When you want to make a government running, you want to somebody who is the Yorubas will say that the owner of the country, the owner of the village, will not want the village to scatter. That's the Yoruba adage. I just translated it to English. So in making sure that in the village health exercise of the father, they doesn't want the village to scatter. He might use lies, he might use deception, he might use what they call backing, like putting people at loggerhead just to make sure that things are going. You might put negative, of course, in mathematics, minus times minus equals plus. So you might use two negativity to achieve positivity. Here, the two negatives are, okay, these are the bad boys, but the positive is that Nigeria must remain indissoluble and one. So when they say some people who are agitating for self-determination are terrorists, of course, I want to believe that is the political statement and that they are trying to make sure that, Nigeria remains indissoluble. So for me, so far so good, except somebody is following strictly or somebody is committing acts or offenses that are the Terrorism Act. That is when you are engaging, when you are supplying arms, for banditry, supplying arms for kidnapping, you are killing sporadically, ethnic cleansing and all that. Those are what constitute terrorism. When you are even if you are financing, you are aiding and abetting. Probably you are not on the field with them, but you are giving them, you are backing them up financial, remuneration. You are also a terrorist. But just like I said, I want to believe that that is just mere statecraft. So far, so good. From what you have seen so far, of course, they have not been tried. When you see somebody is a terrorist, somebody has flouted the Prohibition of Terrorism Act, the person must have been found guilty in court. No man is found guilty unless his act is proven to be guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction. So unless and until these principal actors have been convicted in court to be guilty of terrorism, then we can say, they are terrorists. But for now, so far so good. The matter, if Sunday Igboho is still in Benin Republic, not even on the issue of Nigerian matter alone now. He's even answering to the fact that he did fake passport and all that. So then Sunday, what was it called? Nnamdi Kanu. Of course, the matter is still on. It was a matter that was pending, that is still being tried. So the court are still on, and so it will be very early, or it will be too preemptive for us to say that these guys are terrorists.
Okay, so let's go back to laws and self-determination. What is the role of the international organization now? Talking about the United Nations, the international law, the constitution in the African Union, what role do those constitutions play in self-determination? Okay,
let me take us to the African Charter on Human People's Rights, which is the charter of all signatories to the African Union. It was signed way back then, and it's still a charter that is still existing. And let me also quickly chip in that by African Charter on Human People's Rights Ratification Act of Nigeria, it has been domesticated. And what I mean is this: if there is an international treaty or bilateral agreement between Nigeria and another nation, or in an international organization where Nigeria is a part and parcel of, so that law can be applicable in Nigeria, it has to be domesticated. The law will be brought to the National Assembly. That is, it has to go to the House of Assembly, House of Rep first, then from there to proceed to the Senate, then the Joint House will sit, and then that law, that treaty, or that bilateral agreement will not be domesticated. It will not be deemed to be a Nigerian law. And by application, it means that law is applicable in Nigeria. So there are a lot of legal issues on intricacies on this matter. Now, when you look at the provision of African Charter on Human People's Rights, it provides that nations of African origin can call for self-determination. For example, say ethnic groups or classes, in the country where the law has been ratified or domesticated can call for self-determination. There is a clause, I think Article 23 or 24 of African Charter, provides for that. Now, don't forget I just said it a moment ago that the law has been domesticated in Nigeria. That it is now an act of Nigeria, it's an act of National Assembly. So if you are saying that, legally speaking, if you are saying that the Constitution is against secession or the breaking apart of Nigeria, now that Nigeria has domesticated the African Charter on Human People's Rights, of which there is a provision that provides that countries can actually determine, there could be self-determination. So anybody could come from that angle. This is legal wizardry. Anybody could come from that angle to say that, look, even if Nigeria's constitution is silent on this thing, of course, we all know that the constitution is the grown norm. It is the heavyweight, it is the pillar holding every other law. That is the most supreme law of the land. However, I'd like to say that when Nigeria has in its own wisdom domesticated or ratified the African Charter, it means if you cannot run under the Constitution, you can run under the African Charter. So basically speaking, African Union cannot enforce it. Of course, all countries in Africa are independent. As I speak to you, there is no place in Nigeria that is not independent yet, in Africa rather, except some few nations that are trying to call for us independence. Of course, there's this crisis in Ethiopia, the Tigray region. They want to move away from Ethiopia. Eritrea, what happened in Nigeria, what is happening now happened in Ethiopia. Eritrea used to be part of Ethiopia before the Tigray also. Tigray people too are also doing the same thing, and it's a very big crisis, humanitarian crisis as we speak. And so the African Union or the United Nations or ECOWAS or any other international body cannot do much more than they can't go into Nigeria or any other country and meddle into their affairs. That is a misnomer. So we have to manage our affairs ourselves, but they can only be there to watch, to advise, or to give pathway, to give professional advices. But there is little you can do. However, the laws made by these international bodies or the treaties made by these international bodies of which Nigeria is part and parcel of can be domesticated, and if Nigeria wants or if the leadership wants, they can actually make sense to it by allowing this thing to prevail. But I tell you, no Baale, no village man, no village headmaster, we allow people, to live like that. Everybody wants to form synergy, and that is why you see all these things happening.
Okay. Now let's talk about asylum. That is a word that has become popular in recent days. The UK decided to offer asylum to some IPOB members, even though it was rejected by these members. They said they wanted a referendum, not an asylum. Looking at the whole concept of asylum, what is the legal implication of seeking asylum in a democracy?
Okay, last night I was watching the Tokyo Olympics, and there was one athlete from, Bosnia now? From one nation. Belarus, rather. There was an athlete from Belarus, the coach just told her that she has to go and do an event without her consent. He just jumped on her and she said she was not going to do it. So the next thing was, the country is an autocratic nation. So a call was made from Belarus that the athlete should be, brought back home, and she resisted. So as you speak, she sought asylum from the Poland, that she doesn't want to go to Belarus because if she goes back there, it is going to be very serious for her. She might actually be detained and made to face, prison terms. So she sought refuge at the Polish embassy in Tokyo, Japan, where the Olympics are going on. So the implication of that is this: an asylum, legally speaking, is a process whereby anybody, a citizen of a country, who wants to escape, could be persecution, political persecution, it could be ethical persecution, or whatever it is. Trying to escape from injustice, trying to escape from lawlessness, or trying to escape from misgovernance in another nation. Of course, it is something that is recognized under international law. And so, by implication, if it is for the person to seek asylum, okay, I want to go, for example, I want to seek asylum and I want to leave Nigeria, say to Cameroon or Benin Republic, I will have to extend my hand of fellowship to them and telling them that I want to come to their country. Then you have to state a ground. They have to see it. It has to be obvious. Then if the nation where you are seeking asylum deem it fit that you have a very solid ground, or you have a very powerful ground for seeking the asylum, then they will invite you in to come over.
Okay, let's talk about how government has responded so far to self-determinants, those who are seeking self-determination. Some days ago, on the 1st of July, to be precise, there was a raid of Sunday Igboho's house.
Okay.
In that raid, about 2 people were killed, 2 guards were killed. Some of his aides were arrested and taken to Abuja. And some of them are still being detained as at this time. And then there's also the case of the extradition of Nnamdi Kanu and the process that followed. There's been arguments that there wasn't legal process followed to extradite Nnamdi Kanu back to Nigeria. What are your thoughts on how government has handled these people seeking self-determination in Nigeria so far?
Well, I have to be very frank. Before any other thing, I'm a Nigerian and I have flesh and blood running through my veins. Of course, when I look at the matter in an holistic manner, the approach meted against Nnamdi Kanu and that of Sunday Igboho, to say the least, it is undemocratic. It doesn't follow the law, and it is unethical. But unfortunately, the activities or the paraphernalia that surrounded, the Sunday Igboho home raid and that of Nnamdi Kanu's deportation, could be alluded to statecraft, just like another quarter is saying. But here I want to talk like a lawyer. You see, Sunday Igboho's home raid, whereby 2 people were killed, we saw blood splattered, split on the ground and all that. Until today, the DSS have feared the court gave an order that the 12, I think, be produced. Of course, it was only 8 of them that were produced in court. DSS still held back some of them. When you look at this, antecedent, it sent only a cipher, and the cipher is that we still have a DSS that does not respect court order. We still have a DSS that does not give credence or that does not give respect, to the hallowed judicial arm of government. Of course, when you look at this matter, you know the intent and the desire of DSS. And what is intent and desire of DSS? To clamp down illegally. Whoever, it is fine. You might have a reason for saying that, people are calling for self-determination against the provision of the Constitution. But Yoruba will say that it is not. If you want to cure headache, you don't cut off the head, because when you cut off the head, the person is already lifeless. These things have to be done. You have to, somebody who comes to you for headache, oh, you're having a headache, okay, let me first of all administer paracetamol. If paracetamol does not go, let me go higher and give you Panadol, caffeine. If doesn't go, then probably you have to go to hospital. But if you are carrying the head off, it means that you are making rubbish of the whole body. And so that is what I want to allude to what the federal government, or let me say DSS now. Because sometimes these people, these agents may do some things without the knowledge of the federal government. We have seen situations like that. So I want to say that the director of DSS or the active player in DSS have not done well. Fine, if you have taken these guys from Ibadan to Abuja, and the court has said that, look, in own wisdom, produce these people for me, let them come and give me a reason why I should put these people behind bars. And you have failed to produce them. Of course, maybe they are dead, nobody knows. Maybe they have been seriously battered, and probably the element of torture on their body, which of course might also impugn their own conventional statement before DSS. Because the law is that when you make somebody do something under duress, of course, that conventional statement will not hold water. Probably that is why they are holding those guys back. I don't know. But when you look at it from that angle, that of Sunday Igboho and his cohorts, of course, the handling of that by DSS, to me, does not follow the law. Now, go to the issue of Nnamdi Kanu. I have said it over time, and I'll keep saying it. It was in a Gestapo manner. It was a draconian manner, and it was a Machiavellian manner by which he was deported back to Nigeria. Say, for instance, Nnamdi Kanu is alleged to hold a British passport, and he left Heathrow Airport in London, to Jomo Kenyatta Airport in Kenya, in Nairobi, with a British passport. And the foreign minister of Kenya is saying that they were not aware that Nnamdi Kanu was in their country. And now I ask myself a question. Nnamdi Kanu coming. Kenya is one of the most civilized. It has, in fact, there are a lot of United Nations agencies with their African headquarters in Kenya. They would rather go to Kenya than come to Nigeria. So Kenya is adjudged to be a very civilized nation with a very strong democratic standard. For somebody to come into Jomo Kenyatta Airport, one of the best in Africa, one of the best in the world. Of course, from Ibadan to Abuja or Lagos to Abuja, just to check in. Of course, you have to go through a lot of things. They will check your passport, this and that. They have their database on their system. So for them to say that they are not aware Nnamdi Kanu was in their country, somebody that spent up to 6 or 7 days, he was carted, sealed up. He said he slept. The next time he opened his eyes, it was at Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport in Abuja. Of course, nothing can be further from the truth than saying that there was an unholy union between the Nigerian government and that of the Kenyan Republic. And so, that alone, somebody who is bearing a British passport, if somebody had even entered your country illegally, is carrying a British passport, the law is that you deport him back. He used a British passport to enter your airspace. And now if you have found that he came in illegally, then you have to do what? You have to send him back to the country upon which passport he came into your country.
So in both cases of Sunday Igboho and Nnamdi Kanu, there's been violations of human rights.
Very on a large scale. I have to update that.
Okay, so in conclusion, how would you advise the government to handle such cases? How would the government have handled this that will be better? Calls for self-determination. What better ways can the government handle it? We should know this at first. See, there are approaches to issues. A lot of people have been giving instances of Czechoslovakia, giving an example of USSR, giving an example of the East and West Germany then. But these people don't know that in the constitution of USSR, in the 1980 constitution of USSR, there's a clause there that if any of the units wants to secede or wants to leave the union, they are permitted. There's a clause there. But unfortunately, in the Nigerian constitution, there is no clause like that. Of course, I read some time ago that in one of those constitutional conferences preluding independence, Zik, Awolowo, and Ahmadu Bello, Awolowo provided a solution that there should be a clause. Because three of us, we don't understand one another's language. And call might come in the next future that, look, I'm tired, I want to be on my own. That let us put a secession clause in the constitution that we are trying to prepare. But there were stiff oppositions. Of course, some of us are gifted. Probably maybe Awolowo was the only lawyer among the three of them. He saw the legal implication. But they felt, look, we don't need this thing. If you are saying that we are coming together, then let's not think negative. But it was God that created white. It was also God that created black. So it means as human beings, we have to think back and forth. So, but now that we have agreed to stay together, sincerely as a person, I love it more when we are together as Nigerians. I love it when I go to Kano without having to get a visa. I love it when I go to Enugu. I served in Anambra State in Oka and Police Command
I don't want to go back there. Probably I have one or two things to go there, and I have to go to Enugu to get the visa to enter. It's not something I want. I want us to come together. The union has been so perfect, and though it has its own limitations. So the advice I will give is this: there are better ways to solve matters. These guys that are calling for self-determination, probably they felt their part of the country is marginalized. For example, say probably appointment, political appointment, or institution of some government parastatal or that, federal parastatal maybe has not been reflected or spread across board. So I want more engagement rather than coming down on them. There are better ways to solve matters. East and West Germany, there was a time they departed. And in 1991, it was George Bush Senior, that facilitated the coming back. And now we have one United Germany. They went apart and they came back together again. So if issues like that have happened in the past, we should not look at the example of those that broke apart. We also have example of East and West Germany that also came back together again. So we should look at it from that aspect. What were those things? Probably we should understudy Germany. Probably we should look at how everything happened. How they were able to leave behind their bitterness and come together. Let's go to Uganda there. During the war of Hutu and the Uganda genocide, the Hutu and the Tutsis. Now if you go to Uganda, on their passport in Nigeria you say state of origin, Ogun State, local government Ijebu-Ode. In Uganda, there is no state of origin, there is no local government. All of them are Ugandans because they also left back, they shed back, the past, and they come together again. We should understudy our advice that we should understudy Uganda, we should understudy Germany. These are what we should look at. We should come together as one and believe Nigeria, the future is still bright.
All right. Nigeria, the future is still bright. It is on that note we end it on this episode of Development Issues. My guest has been Mr. Olumiji Martins, a legal practitioner at Mavic Alpha Legal Practice. Thank you so much for being with us today, sir. All right, until the next episode, my name is MunachiEgbulonu.